Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the How to Leverage LinkedIn for Your Job Search workshop today. We're so glad to have you here. My name is Megan Spalding, and I am a career advisor here in the Albers Placement Center. The Albers Placement Center is the career center for the business school. And so we are here to help you with all things career planning and career exploration. My team is on the call as well. We have Mary Lou Moffitt, Justin Dolce, and Lori Nilo, and we're all available to help you all beyond this workshop today if you want to work on your LinkedIn or any kind of career needs that you have. So hopefully you've seen in your email and around the building, we are doing a series this spring of workshops. They're open to all students, but kind of the theme around them is post-grad life. So those of you who are graduating and moving on to new things soon, we're offering a series of workshops to help support you in that process. And this is our first one today. So this one's a little more focused around the job search. We are so lucky to have Rick Sass with us, who, has generously done this workshop for us now. I don't know, Rick, how many times? Several years in a row.
This is the 9th time.
Yeah, it's our annual tradition, and he's got great wisdom and information to pass along about LinkedIn, so you're all in good hands. So let me give you a little bit of background information about him. So Rick Sass is a skilled career coach and management consultant with vast experience in all aspects of career management, media operations, relationship sales, and executive development. Currently, he's an executive career coach and their LinkedIn subject matter expert with LHH, which is Lee Hecht Harrison, and they are the largest outplacement firm in the US. Prior to career coaching, Rick was employer relations manager at Seattle Pacific University and a career consultant with Career Horizons in Bellevue. Prior to that, he's an executive with nearly 30 years experience in the media industry. Rick was director of customer marketing and sales for the Puget Sound Business Journal and previously held executive roles for more than 20 years with USA Today, including positions such as regional general manager in charge of marketing, sales, printing, and distribution operations in Kansas City and the Pacific Northwest. Rick is active in his community and professional organizations. He served in leadership positions on the boards of the Executive Network of Seattle and the American Cancer Society's Hope Gala. We are fortunate in that he's been a 16-year mentor here in the Albers School, mentoring grad students and Bridge MBA and undergrad seniors. He's also active in the business plan and mentor programs at UW Foster School of Business, Seattle, in our business plan competition, SPU, and UW Bothell. Rick has a bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Notre Dame and an MBA from the University of Kansas. So great experience, wealth of experience to pass along today. And real quick, before I pass it over to you, Rick, just a little housekeeping. If you all could just kind of keep yourselves muted while Rick is going to kind of present for about 45 minutes or so on our topics and give you an overview, a live overview of some of the things. But as we go along, please put questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat. And then at the end, we'll try to do a Q&A. And at that time, you can either ask in the chat or unmute yourself to ask your questions. So Rick, so thank you so much for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Megan. Greatly appreciated. A wonderful intro. I was wondering who that was you were introducing. So in any event, yeah, how about my Jayhawks last night, right? I was pretty excited that we won the national championship, but I won't dwell on that. I hope that some of you have had the opportunity to attend or watch what I did last year and previous years with the LinkedIn program. As Megan indicated, I've been a LinkedIn expert for quite a while. I've taught hundreds of classes on LinkedIn to lots of professionals and primarily people your parents' age. What I thought we would do today is do things a little bit differently, because I normally have started off by going through your profile. And I know that the Career Center, as well as some of your classes, spend a lot of time on profile. If we have enough time towards the end of the conversation, we will spend more time on profile. For the time being, I'm assuming that you're all on LinkedIn, you've got a LinkedIn profile, and if you need help with that, you know where to go through the Career Center. So what I thought we would start with instead is I thought we would talk about connections, number one, because ultimately that is what LinkedIn is. LinkedIn is a connection tool. I view LinkedIn as a networking tool, a way for me to stay in touch with my connections, add new connections, use the connections I've got to be able to connect people. That's what LinkedIn ultimately is all about. And one of the things I thought I would show you very first is I have a rule of thumb about connections, and that is that I believe you should have 10 connections for each year of your age. So those of you out there who are 20, you should have 200 connections. Those of you who might be 25, you should have 250 connections, and so forth. Me, as you can see, I'm good until I'm like 180 years old, so I'm not worried about that. But I want to show you how you add connections, why you add connections, and who you add as connections, because that does become important. Those of you, obviously you're all students, you're early on in this, and most of you probably don't have a lot of connections. Now is the time to be adding those connections. So who do you add? Number one, decide for yourself who you're going to allow yourself to connect with. I get invitations all the time, and I will say right now, please don't ask to connect with me unless you actually know me, because my philosophy, and I state it right in my LinkedIn summary, if I go down to it, is that I will not connect with anyone. As a rule, in order to protect the integrity of my network and relationships, I will not connect with anyone on LinkedIn that I have not met with face-to-face or had a significant Zoom, Teams, phone conversation, shared at least a coffee get to know you meeting. That's my philosophy. Now, you can do your own. I will say this. If you add connections that you don't know those people. Do you really want to do that? I always say this, start with the people you know. Start with the people that you've gone to school with. Start with the people that are in your classes now. Start with your professors. Start with the people that you know from back home, that you know from school days, friends of your parents, parents of your friends when you were growing up, those kinds of things. Start with those people, but also do it with a purpose in mind. And that is, if you know that you want to go into a certain industry, try to find connections that can be in that industry. But I will also say, start now with the people you know, the people that you're going to school with. You never know who they're going to turn into. Case in point, I know last year I brought up one of my connections who was somebody who lived across the hall from me when I was an undergrad at Notre Dame. I connected with him many years later because LinkedIn didn't exist when we were at Notre Dame. And basically, by connecting with him, I was able to connect with somebody who knows a lot of people in the supply chain field. And so therefore, and by the way, one of the people he's a first degree connection to is Michael Dell. So add connections. Here's one of the tricks in terms of adding connections. Anyone that is in your network that is a first degree connection, you can go and kind of do what I call reaping the low-hanging fruit. You can go and look at that person's connections to see if there's anybody that you know that you'd like to connect with. So my current boss, for example, if I go to Stacy's profile, I can look and see her 500 plus connections. And by the way, the blue contact info here will show me when I connected with her. It'll show me her LinkedIn URL as well as her personal email address tied to this account. But I can more importantly go to her connections, click on the connections, and just go through and kind of, oh, hey, I should connect with Garrick. So it would be very easy because I know Garrick. I've met him. I've worked with him numerous times. Rosa, I know her. Ruth Loomis, I'm currently working with clients with her. Jana Andriotti, she used to be my boss's boss. So I could go through and just connect with these people that are, as I call, low-hanging fruit, because they are people connected to somebody I'm connected to. So anytime you connect with somebody, Ellie Enlicker, I should connect with her for sure. Anytime you connect with somebody, go look at their connections and see who you might be able to add as your connections. Okay, that's number one. Okay, now next thing, beyond the low-hanging fruit, I want to talk about networking tools. And one of the most important networking tools is basically using groups and some of the things that you'll find down at the bottom of your profile. So I'm going to go to my profile for a second. And whereas I would normally do this very late in the process, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom to the interests area, because down here I find groups. You also find companies and schools. We'll talk about those in a minute too, and the influencers, which you can follow. As you see, I'm following 232 influencers. Groups become important on LinkedIn because they are a place where you can go and add connections, number one. Now, you should start with groups that are related to what you're doing currently. So for example, I know Megan is always talking to me about, hey, Rick, talk to them about the Elber School Business and Economics, and I find it populating here, and I'm going to click on it. And when I do, you can see I'm following the Elber School, but more importantly, up above it says, what are you looking for, Rick? You're looking for people, companies, jobs. I'm looking for groups. So I'm going to click on groups, and I can go down here and find, and it didn't show me the Elber School group.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, Rick. It starts with students and alumni of Albert School of Business and Economics. It's a very long word.
Okay.
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Let me, so students, I think it's this one here. Students, yeah, because I just put in students. Students of, does it say the Albert School?
Yeah, it's students and alumni of. Mhm.
Okay, baby. What are you doing?
Trying to pull up.
Okay. Yale University MBA group for students and alumni. Anyway, small group. Let's do this. I'm going to go back, empty that out. And I'm going to go look for a group. I'm just going to look for Seattle University. Sometimes you get too tight on these things. And when I hit enter here, it again is going to ask me what I'm looking for. And I can go look specifically for groups that'll have something to do with Seattle University in them. And I can see there's the MAM, that's Seattle Pacific stuff, alumni of Seattle University. By the way, those of you who are seniors, or if you're grad students or graduating, you should be joining the alumni group at Seattle University. Let's see, Seattle University Criminal Justice Network, Pacific, and it does hurt that I've got both Seattle U and Seattle Pacific showing up here. But point being, you want to go find these groups. In any event, instead of searching this down, I'm going to go down to my existing groups, which, by the way, for those of you who are a member of at least one group, I'm going to go over to the work tab over here. And on the second row of the work tab, it says groups. Here's what I want to do with groups. Once I've joined groups, and I'm just going to go to my Notre Dame Alumni Network group here. For those of you who are a member of a group, if you've ever been in the group page, what you'll see is down the middle of the page is kind of where the business takes place. And that is what's being posted. So somebody's posted something, somebody's asking something, somebody's asking and answering questions, they're putting articles to share, they're asking to connect with people, any of those types of things down the middle of the page. And that's kind of where the action takes place. Now, in my world, what becomes important is up here in the upper left corner. And that's where you can see there are 41,670 members of this group. Now, the important thing about groups on LinkedIn is everybody coming into the group has to ask to join the group. There is an owner and usually some group managers that decide who gets allowed into the group. As a result, everybody in the group has got something in common. By the way, the guy I mentioned who knows Michael Dell, that's him there in the middle, Michael Massetti, the guy that used to live across the hall from me. In any event, what happens here is everybody who is let in has one thing in common. In this case, everybody is a Notre Dame alumnus, and they've been vetted and allowed in the group. Once you're in the group, what happens inside the group, it's just like going to a private networking event, because only members of that group can see what goes on inside the group. To me, what becomes more important than the things that get posted are this over here, where I can see all 41,670 members of this group. Why this becomes important is because when I look at this group, as long as I know somebody's name, and just because I know he's in the group and I know he'll show up, I'm going to put in my friend there, Michael Massetti. And as soon as I start typing it, LinkedIn's going to realize there he is. But if it was Michael Massman or Michael Masserino, any of these people, I could go click on his profile. By the way, you notice to the right, I could contact him directly through a messaging. If I'm on his profile page, what becomes important here is I can see that he went to Notre Dame. LinkedIn, because I'm not a premium user, wants me to pay money to message him. I don't have to do that because I see in the highlights that I share a group with him, which is that Notre Dame group, the Notre Dame alumni group. So I can go to that group, and that's where I could directly reach out to him through this messaging tab over here on the right-hand side. Where that becomes important is if in fact I do a search and I find somebody who is working at a company I'm interested in, and perhaps, obviously they went to Notre Dame, I could reach out to them directly and I could message them and say something like, hey, see that you're a Notre Dame alum, you're a member of the Notre Dame alumni group. Hopefully maybe they're living in the Seattle area and they're working at a company I'm interested in, but even if they're not, I can message them and just say, hey, would you be willing to have a 20-30 minute Zoom call with me? I'd love to chat with you a little bit, not just about your experiences at Notre Dame, your professional experiences, but maybe about your company, that sort of thing. So it's leveraging that, and especially while you're students. Students get a little bit of leeway here. As I often hear it referred to, play the student card, because people in the professional world are more likely to accept the request to talk with you, to have a Zoom call with you, if in fact you're still a student, because they're not feeling like you're just going to be asking them for a job, which is what you're not doing. You're not asking for a job. What you want to do is you want to have a conversation with them, find out a little bit more about their job, about their company, and maybe be able to connect with them on LinkedIn at the end of that conversation. The reason that becomes important is now I've got a connection inside a company I may have an interest in. Let me show a couple other things that are useful in terms of doing advanced search for LinkedIn purposes in terms of helping you to find jobs. If I'm interested in a company, so just for fun, I'm going to go into LinkedIn. I'm interested in working at LinkedIn. As soon as I see LinkedIn, I'm going to click on LinkedIn, and you'll see I'm already following LinkedIn. And you'll see along the top here, it says, what are you looking for, Rick? Again, people, companies, groups, events. I could look for LinkedIn groups. I could look at jobs. I'm going to look at the company. So I'm just going to click on LinkedIn. When I do that, LinkedIn pops up, and you see, again, there's a header down here. Home, about, products, posts, jobs, like, people, and so forth. I'm interested in people. Now, I could look at their posts, what they've posted recently, but I'm going to go straight to people. And when I do this, you'll see that some graphics are going to show up. There's some bar charts here, okay? And the bar charts say where these people live, where they studied, where they work, what they do, and so forth. I'm only interested in the people at LinkedIn that are in the Seattle area, because that's what I've decided I want to do. Greater Seattle area, I click on it. So now it narrows that search down to 242 people. I could further narrow it by where they studied, if I was so inclined. I could also, because there's 2 additional pages to this, I could look at what they say they do. Oh, I'm interested in the HR folks, or I'm interested in the media and communication folks. What they studied, not as important to me unless I want to match majors. Oh, I just want the business majors like myself. And the 3rd page shows me what they say they're skilled at and how I'm connected. So in this case, I could say, oh, I only want people who are project managers, or are good with teamwork. Or I could just go after the leadership folks, because I'm interested in leadership. And I could say, oh, I'm only interested in the 2nd degree connections if I want. And that narrows the search down to 20 people. Now, these are all second-degree connections. So regardless of what my search criteria were, if I stopped it when it was 2,000 or 800 or whatever, those people would then show up down below. I just like to make it a manageable number. So I've got it down to 20, and I know I've got some things in common with these people. What I've got in common is there's a shared connection. So Chris Cohen, Director US West Large Enterprise at LinkedIn. If I click on Chris Cohen's profile, and he's got a nice background photo that we might talk about later. By the way, if you're not familiar with this representation up here, if I want to hear how to pronounce his name,
Chris Cohen.
I can hear it. By the way, you can do that using your cell phone and having the LinkedIn app on your cell phone. It's the only way you can record that. You can also, you've got 10 seconds on that introduction, by the way, so you've got more time to add additional stuff beyond just how to pronounce your name. I can tell already looking at the common connections that Chris Cohen's got, and I can see right here, Seattle Pacific University connection, because Jackie Smith Bates, my former boss, Rob McKenna, I know him really well too. So I've got some connections here. And the point of this is this: if I want to connect with Chris, I can reach out to any of my 8 mutual connections and say, hey, would you be willing to introduce me to Chris? But even if for some reason all 8 of those people ignore my request to connect me to Chris, I can reach out directly to Chris and I can send him a message and I can say, hey, Chris, I see that you went to Seattle Pacific. So you're closely connected to Seattle Pacific University. You've been working at LinkedIn for the last 5 years. And like myself, you're here in the greater Seattle area. I would love to chat with you, or maybe grab a coffee if you're available to meet or willing to meet face-to-face. Would love to get the opportunity to spend 20, 30 minutes with you talking about things related to your experiences at LinkedIn, and would love to just chat. Now, again, at the end of my conversation, I'm going to ask him if we can connect on LinkedIn. So I'm going to add connections is the point. And you can do that with these common connections using this kind of search. By the way, you can do that exact same kind of search for your school. So if I go to Seattle University here, I could do Notre Dame too, but we're talking to Seattle University students. So I'm going to click on Seattle University. And I can do, you can see I'm following Seattle U. And I can click on Seattle U, and now instead of the people that work there, I'm interested in the alumni. And this is something you all should be doing if you've never done this before. And again, you'll see the same kind of bar charts that I saw before when I was looking at LinkedIn as a company. Now it's for the 56,905 alums of Seattle U. Again, maybe I want to look at just the 35,000 in the Seattle area. That's not going to narrow it too much. But maybe I'm looking at people at Amazon, or I'm looking at Seattle Children's, or I'm looking at T-Mobile. You can pick your company. Let's pick on Starbucks, okay? So I decide, oh, I want to meet up with anybody who is a graduate of Seattle University working at Starbucks. Again, I can go out and say, oh, I only want people that are in research or in accounting, or let's look at the accounting is kind of small, but I'll narrow those folks out. And I'll try to add somebody else that I might want to talk to too. Maybe, let's see, marketing folks. And again, I can narrow that search looking at the third page, but the 12 people that I've designated, again, here they are. Well, not surprisingly, Rob Stern just happens to be known by Mary Lou, who I know is on the call. So I could reach out to Mary Lou and say, hey, Mary Lou, could you introduce me to Rob Stern? He's an HR director at Starbucks. Awesome. So there's a connection I could leverage to reach out and try to connect with somebody who could conceivably help open some doors, but at very least would be able to connect with me so that I could have somebody inside at, in this case, Starbucks. Now, I look at Katie Anderson, and Katie Anderson here, and by the way, I always like to look at people's LinkedIn profiles. Now, part of that is because I am, yes, a LinkedIn nerd, but part of it is I want to try and learn everything I can from looking at people's LinkedIn profiles. I can see how long she's been at Starbucks. She looks, and here's what happened for those of you not familiar. She was at Starbucks. She got transferred in the Nestle switch over, and then she wanted to go back to Starbucks, so she did. So in any event, I can learn things about her. I see she was at Trident before that. She's a Seattle U MBA graduate, 2011. So it's chances are I could have conceivably met her through the mentor program. And I can go down and learn other things from her, including who are the companies she's following. So I can look at all 47 companies she's following. Maybe I want to follow a company she's following. I could just go, you can see I'm following most of them, but if I decided I wanted to follow Nestle Coffee Partners, I can do that from her LinkedIn profile, and it doesn't alert her to the fact that I did that. I can also look at the groups she's in, because maybe I want to, and there lo and behold is the Elbert School of Business and Economics Student Alumni Group. So there it is, Megan, I found it. And here it is for you to look at. And I could ask to join, so I wouldn't have this problem in future years. But point being, when I'm out here, I can look at this group. I could ask to join. I can see the details. I can see the group's been there since 2007, what the rules of the group are, and so forth. So all of this is fun stuff you can do on LinkedIn, bottom line, okay? I could reach out again directly to Katie and say, hey, I see we've got some common connections, or I could use my common connections to connect with her. Point being, connections, take advantage of them. Okay. If there are no questions at the moment, I want to shift gears and I want to go over to the profile to talk about a few things important on the profile. We doing well on any questions out there, Megan? Anything I need to address?
No, nothing in chat so far, Rick. We're doing great.
Okay, appreciate that.
Mhm.
Okay, what I want to do is I want to point out a few things on LinkedIn that most people don't have. Now, number one being at the top of your profile, visuals matter. And you're hearing this from the people in the Career Center, but make sure you've got a background shot and a good looking headshot. It can be taken with your cell phone. That's fine, doesn't matter. But have those visuals, because more than 40% of people in general are visual processors. Make sure that you have a good headline. Your career coach folks can help you with that. I just by happenstance, one of my students who I know is on the call here, I'm going to shift over. Anthony, I know you're out there. I love Anthony's profile. He spent a little time with me working on it because he's one of my mentee students this year, and he did an outstanding job of it. So you can see his background shot. He's got a nice snow-covered mountain, great headshot. He's smiling, wearing his SU jacket, doing everything as he should. Notice what he's got for a headline: aspiring program manager, MBA candidate, first gen. Love it. Now, here's the thing about the headline. He could have more there if he wants to. If he doesn't, that's fine too. The headline needs to directly point to what you're looking for moving forward. I love that he tells us that he's an MBA candidate, that he's an aspiring program manager, because I know directly exactly what it is I'm looking for. Thing to remember about the headline, it is the most important piece of real estate for keyword match. Don't be afraid to tell me you're a student. That's a good thing now, but tell me what it is you're interested in pursuing after you graduate. You're not claiming to be, as you can see with Anthony, he's not claiming to be a program manager. That's what he wants to be. And so he tells me that, aspiring, love that. Okay. He has figured out, by the way, how to use talks about hashtag leadership. The hashtags, if we have time, I'll talk a little bit more about it. Anthony, unlike most students, has got featured stuff up here. I love it. He even points out that he was a Dean's Lister in the fall quarter. Love that kind of thing. I'm going to go down to his about section down here, because what he's got, it's good. Is it the best? Hey, I can tell you mine isn't the best. It's always a work in progress. What you want to have here is talk about your key skills, talk about the things that are important to you moving forward. He's got a good job of that. And in terms of how much information, he's doing a good job. One of the things I wanted to do here with Anthony, he's got all of his education, including his undergrad degree from UW. He's got licenses and certifications here, which he's gotten. And one of the things I wanted to point out about Anthony's is here in the skills section. And I'm sure that the people in the Career Center there are telling you to work on these skills. The one thing I would tell Anthony to do is expand on his skills. He's got 15 here. That's a good start. What I love about it is he has got a couple of skills here that he has passed a skill assessment on. Skill assessments are offered by LinkedIn on many of their skills, and it's not easy to pass these things. So make sure that you're well studied before you take it. And I know Anthony's passed a couple of them, as I recall. I think he's got 2 of them maybe, but that's not easy to do, and you want to show that. And that's important. What becomes important when you're first getting into the work world are the skills you've got sorted appropriately, the top 3 being the most important. You can see with Anthony's that the default setting here is whatever he's gotten the most endorsements for, 12 is on top, and then customer service with 9, and then project management with 6, and so forth. If he wants leadership or management or budgeting or whatever, management accounting, he should move those into the top 3. Let me show you how to do that. Let me go back to my profile. I'm going to go down to my endorsements. You will see when I get down to my endorsements that in terms of skills, I've got, career counseling 68, LinkedIn 40, coaching 95. I'm going to go click on the edit pencil here. And then anytime on LinkedIn, you see 3 dots, that means that's where LinkedIn wants you to work a little bit to try and find the good stuff behind the 3 dots. 2 things here. I'm going to reorder. And reorder is exactly that. The little hamburger over here on the side, I can drag and drop these into whatever order I want. When you do it, it'll save them. So you can see I've got a 99 plus for strategy. I've got, numerous numbers on these various skills. You can have up to 50 skills. You shouldn't have 50 skills yet in your career. You're going to get more. I do find that a lot of students will put out there, I don't know what else to put. I'll put office suites. It's okay to put that you're good at Microsoft Excel or you're good at Microsoft PowerPoint or whatever. But I would concentrate more on transferable skills that are going to be important in the next job. So for Anthony, for example, it might be something accounting related, which he had some of those. Find the skills that are important, ideally, to what you're hoping to do next that you have. And it could be, by the way, that you've got great communication skills or you've got organization skills because you did a job as a nanny or did a job where it required some of those skills. In terms of adding skills, if you click the plus, LinkedIn's algorithm is designed to say, okay, what skills do you have on your profile already? Hey, Rick, here are some, looking at your profile, here are some skills that maybe you should have, that maybe you forgot to have. Or I could just go start typing in a skill, and it could be something communications related. If I start typing communication, you can see it says, do you want communication, community outreach, customer service? It gives you a whole list to choose from. As I understand it, there are literally thousands of pre-populated skills on LinkedIn. So use those skills. I would recommend by the time you graduate from college, you should have at least 15 to 20. And then as you get into your career a little bit, add more skills. Here's the big thing about skills. Get the endorsements while you can. Endorse each other. Ask your friends, ask your colleagues, ask the people you work with to endorse you. Those endorsements matter when you first start your job. Once you've gotten your job, the keywords that you find in these pre-populated skills are often the keywords used by recruiters when they do their searches. So I tell people all the time, take these skills and put them into your headline. Put them other places on your LinkedIn profile, because part of what the way search works on LinkedIn, the way SEO works on LinkedIn, includes the redundancy of keyword skills. So don't just have them in your skills section. Mention them in your past jobs, mention them in your headline, mention them in your summary, because that redundancy and use of those keywords, and especially pay attention to the keywords LinkedIn is recommending, because as I say, frequently those are the keywords that the recruiters are going to use when they do their searches. The other thing to be working on now is recommendations. Get recommendations. Get them from your professors if you're doing particularly well in a class. Get them from your colleagues if you've worked together in a professional setting or even in your classes together. If you've worked on projects together and they recognize that you're good at organizing the team and keeping us on task, tell us that, write a recommendation. Recommendations help, and the keywords used in the recommendations count towards that redundancy of keywords. So make sure that you're taking advantage of recommendations as well. Projects. Chances are you're working on some projects, whether that's at work or you're working on something related to school right now. You're all doing projects. You can change these projects, you can add them, you can delete them. You'll notice if you look at mine, one of the ones I've got here is this career center that we had up on the Microsoft campus. And you can see I'm glad to talk about it because this team project won the Lee Hecht Harrison Global President's Award for 2014 for coaching, delivery, and customer service. So I'm proud of that. I'm going to put it up there. I'm also going to put that, by the way, in my honors and awards. Don't be shy about putting honors and awards out there as you receive them. Languages, straightforward. If you do speak a foreign language at all, make sure you put it down. Notice you get to put your proficiency levels. Make sure you have English there if you put a foreign language. It's not a given. Okay. All right. Let me pop back up to the top and talk a little bit about experience, unless there's questions out there, or Megan, if I missed something you want to talk about specifically.
No, you're doing great, Rick. I was
Okay.
just going to ask you, I don't coach that much on the skills because I've never really been sure how much they matter.
Yes.
But I do love the idea of like them giving you ideas for skills that then you can build out in your headline and your summary.
Yes. So what I will say is this: the skills at a certain point stop mattering. So when you get to where I am, when you get to Megan, where you are in your career, if you're 6, 8, 10 years into your career, the skills do stop mattering, because here's the thing about skills. The only thing required for anyone to endorse you for a skill on LinkedIn is that they be a first degree connection. So by that nature, I could go, being a first degree connection to Megan or to Justin or to Mary Lou, I could go and I could endorse them for every skill on their profile just by virtue of the fact that we're first degree connections. Now, I have done some work with them, but do I know specifically that they're good in a specific thing? No. So am I really qualified to endorse them? Not really. The recruiters figured that out, but they do recognize that they matter earlier in your career because you don't have much experience. So that's where the skills matter. And to Megan's point, which is a really good one, I know I mentioned it a minute ago, but litter those keywords elsewhere. That becomes the critical part. And then the farther you get into your career, the less the skills and endorsements will matter, the more the experience and the recommendations matter. And the recommendations truly matter because somebody's gone out on a limb and put their position out on the line that, hey, I'm willing to stand up and say this person is really good for these reasons. So they've in essence written you kind of a free letter of recommendation, which is enormous. That's enormously valuable. One other thing I wanted to touch on here is the homepage. This is something I've never talked about in any of my presentations to Seattle U before. The homepage is a little bit noisy. And in my case, it's very noisy because I'm following over 2,000 companies. I've got 1,800 plus connections, and everything funnels into one place. And by the way, it also shows up in the notifications tab up there. So any companies you're following, anybody who's in your network, and you can see there's Walmart, there's Citi, there's IBM, there's Goldman Sachs, all of this stuff, and there's Howard Schultz. All of this stuff shows up in your notifications tab, but it's sort of like drinking out of the water, out of the fire hose on your main page. But what it is important on the main page is up here at the top in terms of posting. Now, posting is something I do not a lot of, but I do recommend it to people all the time. So let's say, for example, and you'll notice when I come here, when I clicked on that, it says, okay, Rick, who do you want to talk to? Because the default setting is anyone, which means anyone on LinkedIn can see what I'm posting on, but that tends to water things down. So one thing I will say is, okay, let's say you land a new job. I'm going to go and tell my connections about it. And only my first degree connections will get that notification of, hey folks, I just landed a great job at XYZ company. I could also go to my groups, and it's going to take a second because I'm a member of 90 groups, and it's going to say, okay, Rick, which group do you want to mention it to? Oh, I want to go into the Greater Seattle Career Management Group, and I want to share a posting. In that posting, I can, as you see, I can put photos, videos, events. I can write an article. That's those blog type things you see. But it becomes easy for me to reach out to a smaller audience through posting. The other thing that I point out is right here underneath the posting, you'll see it says top. Like Facebook, for those of you on Facebook, LinkedIn tends to sort things according to what's trending, what's getting the most looks and likes. So it trends it with the top. I like to look at recent. So what's most recent? Oh, Northwestern did this, blah, blah, blah. Now I can go down here, and what does become important is things related to what I do professionally. I want to like, I want to comment on them, because that within my industry, that gets the attention of recruiters. Recruiters get a score on each one of us all the time. And basically that score is based on how complete your profile is, whether you've got a good headline, whether you've got a certain number of skills, whether you've got a good summary, a headshot, all of those things, a complete profile, the things that the Career Center is talking with you about, those things become important in terms of how your score goes, in terms of that basic monthly score of where you stand against people in your industry. How active you are out here on the main page and how active you are within your groups as well as with your connections matters too. So all of that adds up to helping you to be more proactive and get on the radar of recruiters. Let me show you one additional search here. Okay, let's say I'm back looking at LinkedIn again. I'm going to go look at LinkedIn. And this is something I recommend once you've worked with the Career Center and gotten your profile looking the way you want it to look, worked on all those different areas that you can have. I'm going to come out here to LinkedIn. And what I want to do now actually is I want to do an advanced search. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to type in LinkedIn again. And I'm going to hit enter this time because I want to have all of this stuff over the top. Notice on the far right, it says all filters. Okay. So I'm gonna go click on all filters over here because it opens up the advanced search box over here. And what I want to do here now is I want recruiters in the Seattle area, and it's greater Seattle area, there it is. And for current company, even though I've got LinkedIn over there, I'm going to check mark LinkedIn again here just to be sure. And notice I check mark current company, not past company, because I want somebody who's currently there. And I could put a school, I'm going to skip that. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom because these keywords matter. I'm looking for somebody who is a recruiter. So I'm going to do that search. So I get 6 results. I can look at these people and second degree, second degree, second degree, second degree. Now this is because I got a lot of connections, people. This is the message here. But I can go look at Curtis Berryman. Now I want to make sure my profile is not only looking great, but it's visible. There is a setting that allows you to not be visible. I'm going to go look at Curtis. That's an interesting headshot, Curtis, interesting background shot. But I want Curtis to know that I'm looking at his profile. So I'm out here. You can see I've got 4 common connections with him, so I could reach out to those people. One of the other things I'm going to do, because I can see he's a technical recruiter at LinkedIn. He's been there for almost a year. Before that, he was a technical recruiter at Microsoft. He also was a technical recruiter at Nordstrom. And I can see, you know, he's got some licenses and certifications through LinkedIn as well. You can see how good that looks, by the way, and recruiters are looking for that. And I can go down here, and one of the things I want to do is I want to see what groups he's in, 41 groups, because maybe there's a group I can join, in which case, if he's in Women in Leadership Learning Group, maybe I can join that group too. So I could go to the group and I could ask to join the group. And if I join that group now, number one, by virtue of being on his profile, he should see that I've looked at his profile. Number two, if I join a group he's in, as I showed you earlier, now I get the opportunity to directly correspond to him through messaging, provided he hasn't turned it off, which is a possibility. But point being, I'm going to find recruiters. If I find a half dozen of them, I'm going to try and reach out. One thing to always do is always try to get introduced to recruiters. but get on their radar so they can see that you've looked at their profile, so they can see and look at your profile, because that becomes absolutely important. Okay, how are we doing on time, Megan?
You're good, Rick. You're at about 1:15.
Okay, questions, or shall I just continue onward?
You can continue on. I did want to make sure, because I find some people don't know this, difference between first and second degree. When you say that,
Okay.
what does
Okay.
that mean?
Yeah, outstanding. Okay, so here's the thing. First degree connections, great point. First degree connections are the people that you've connected to directly, okay? So anyone that has reached out to me and I've accepted their connection request, or if vice versa, they've asked me, and if we've agreed to connect, they're first degree connections. So like Mary Lou, I'll pick on her for a second. Mary Lou, you can see, is a first degree connection to me. What that means is everyone that Mary Lou is connected to on a first degree basis is now my second degree connection, because they're a first degree connection to her. And likewise, everyone connected to Mary Lou, all of their first degree connections are third degree connections to me. So when I went and did that search and found the person that I just found, anybody I might be looking for, if they're a third degree connection, is Kashif, I don't know if Kashif is he's a second degree connection to me. Anybody who is a third degree connection, next to their name, they'll say third. So when I did that search for, and I could go to a lot of different places to do the searches, but anytime you see somebody with a third degree next to their name, that means that they're in your network, but they're out 3 degrees. The reason that becomes important is that when recruiters and headhunters, or anybody for that matter, are doing searches on LinkedIn, there is a hierarchy as to how those searches work. Obviously, for those of you familiar with search engine optimization, the keywords used by the searcher matter the most. And the redundancy of those keywords on your LinkedIn profile and where on your LinkedIn profile they show matters as well. So that's why I want to have those keywords in my headline. I want to have those keywords in my summary, because those 2 areas represent more than 60% of keyword match comes from what shows in your headline and your summary about section. And then the other parts come from your titles and write-ups of your past positions, the projects you've got, those kinds of things in terms of keyword match. So that's number 1 criteria. Number 2, there is a geographical component. So what we see in the Pacific Northwest is going to be a little different from what they might see in the Southeast, in the Midwest, in the East, and so forth. The third part of the hierarchy is what I refer to as the relative proximity to the person doing the search. And that is where your network comes in. So the closer you are to me as a searcher, the higher up you will come on my search. So if I go looking for people who are career coaches in academia, in the college world, Megan and Mary Lou are going to come up, and Justin are all going to come up higher than other career coaches in the academic world, because they're first degree connections to me. Second degree connections, all things being equal, will show under that, and third degree and so forth. So that's one of the many reasons you want more connections. The other thing that helps is it works in the other direction. So not only helping you to find people, as I've shown you in terms of doing searches for companies, searching for, do I have any first or second degree people at that company? Likewise, the recruiters, the closer they are to you, and the hiring managers too, the more important and the more likely you are to come up higher in their search results. So network truly does matter. It becomes absolutely critical in terms of making sure that you've got as many connections as you can, and you leverage those connections. Keywords, can't stress the importance of them in terms of headline and summary. But the other thing I wanted to mention while I'm here is featured. And you notice, by the way, that Anthony had, oh, there's Teresa, that's not who I was looking for. Let me go find. Anthony had found the featured section, which I've got on mine too. And when I go look at Anthony, you'll see he's got the featured elements up there. These are things that you're proud of, especially when you're in college. It could be things like Dean's List. It could be a program you worked on and so forth. In my case, what they are some articles that were written. So you see, I've got a number of thumbnails here. And if you click on the first one, it says, oh, let's go view that. And what this is this NerdWallet reporter a number of years back wrote this series of great articles. It says, Rick Sass, a career coach and LinkedIn expert at Lehigh Terrace in Bellevue, Washington, says, oh, write an eye-catching descriptive headline. Choose a professional, approachable headshot and background image. So these are things that talk about me to strangers, people I don't know. Anybody who happens to land on my LinkedIn profile can see these articles, and they're out there for me to feature or promote. Becomes kind of important, because anything you may be proud of, even if people aren't in any way, shape, or form connected to you, they can see this as an example of something you've done, whether it's work that you've done, an honor you've received, you've been interviewed, you're on a website, you wrote an article, any of those kinds of things you can promote in this featured section. It will become more important the farther along you go in your career, but this is like billboard advertising outside of your establishment. Oh, people who happen by can look at it and say, hey, that's interesting, good stuff. All of that becomes important in terms of helping people to know and understand who you are. And the farther you go into your career, the more important that stuff becomes.
Rick, can I interject with a question?
Yes.
If people are really working hard to build out their connections, do you have
Yes.
suggestions on how to make the ask? Especially if it's like a supervisor or professor that you aren't connected, like that it was back in the past.
Okay. Yeah, great question. And what I would recommend is this. So reach out and ask them. I mean, find their LinkedIn profile. Obviously, they got to be on LinkedIn. And when you reach out to ask, and that's a great point, Megan, is as soon as if I go to, I could go to my other, because he's not a first degree connection that, so if I go to, let me do a search up here. I want to demonstrate kind of what we're talking about here. If I go to, and of course he's not there. If I go to one of my clients, and as an example, let me just go to this guy. Okay. If I go to my client and I go to his profile, and if I go to connect, okay, what I want to do is add a note. Personalize the note. Now, you don't have a whole, you can't write your life story here. You got 300 characters. Hey, Derek, great meeting with you. I enjoyed the time we spent. Would appreciate it if you'd be willing to connect with me on LinkedIn. Now, in your cases, if it's somebody that was a teacher in high school, hey, it's been a long time. I hope you're doing well. Hope your family is safe during these trying times. I would really appreciate it if you'd be willing to connect with me on LinkedIn. By the way, even though I'm a lot of years out of high school and college, within the last year, I have reached out to former classmates of mine, both in high school and college days, who I haven't talked to in more years than any of you have been alive. And I reached out and put in a personalized note and said, would you be willing to connect with me? And they were. So as long as they knew you, as long as they are going to respond to, oh yeah, yeah, I remember Rick. It was kind of funny because I reached out to one of my former roommates from college, who I only knew for a year. And I hadn't heard anything from him in years. And all of a sudden we started up a conversation. So even if it's somebody you haven't talked to in a while, there's no issue, no problem with reaching out to connect. And it's real easy for people to do. So put in a personalized message. Chances are good they will seriously consider it, unless there's something weird going on or they're paying no attention to their LinkedIn account. Chances are really good they will accept your request. Great question, Megan. Thanks.
Thank you. Another one, if people are pretty heavy in their job search,
Yes.
do you think it's worth it to get the Plus account, or doesn't really give you much
So here's the thing.
advantage?
I'm going to go up to try premium for free. Good question. Thank you. And LinkedIn offers you a free month. If you're actively, seriously power searching and you feel the need to become a premium member of LinkedIn. What I do recommend is this: it gets really expensive. If price is not a problem for you, by all means. And LinkedIn just raised the prices in December. So what they call essentials, which used to be the job seeker one, and I chuckle that it's now called essentials. What you get with this is, it says get hired and get ahead. Well, yes or no. It says stand out with and get in touch with hiring managers. While that is possible, it's not hugely likely. See how you compare to other applicants to a degree. What this refers to is, as a premium user, if you see a job posted on LinkedIn, and one of the advantages of that, by the way, is it'll allow you to apply to the job on LinkedIn using your LinkedIn profile as the application. So you don't have to bother with a resume. Once you've done that, if at least 10 other people have applied for that role via LinkedIn, it will give you some feedback. It'll say, oh, hey, of the people who have applied, hey, Rick, you're in the top 20% of people who have applied to this job on LinkedIn. It basically, the algorithm is looking at my profile versus theirs versus the job description. Additionally, it'll tell me how I stand up versus them in terms of my academic credentials. It'll say, oh, Rick, 50% have a bachelor's degree, 20% have a postgraduate degree, et cetera. It'll also do the same thing based on my current position title. Oh, 40% of the people were managers, 50% were whatever. That's not a huge help. It also will give you a list of skills, by the way. And the list of skills is the skills of the people who have applied on LinkedIn, the top 10 skills of those people. So those may not even be the top skills of what's required to do the job. Bottom line is, the only big advantage to me of using the basic essentials premium on LinkedIn, which now, as you can see, costs as little as $40 a month, is that you get access to LinkedIn Learning, which is a huge tool. I prefer to send people, if they're going to go premium level, to go to pro. And the pro level it's pricey. It's $56 a month. But what it does give you, and that's why I say, if you're going to do it, take the free month. And it gives you more search capability and more search criteria that you can do when you're using the searches. Plus, each one of these does give you in-mails. To my way of thinking, in-mails aren't a huge benefit because I find other ways to reach out, not using in-mails, not paying LinkedIn. So to answer your question directly, Megan, I would say anybody who money is not an objection, feel free, but go the pro level or the sales navigator. Anybody where money is tight, don't waste your time.
Super helpful, Rick. Thank you. We're at about 1:28, so I should probably wrap up, although I know we could do a whole nother hour.
We easily could.
This has been so great, Rick. Thank you.
Well,
and everyone, I thank you for being here. I hope this was helpful. I just want to say that, if you need help with some of the things we've talked about today, whether it's building out your profile or, okay, I've found these people on the alumni page. Now what? How do I reach out to them? All those kinds of things. Our office is happy to help you with those strategies, because at the end of the day, LinkedIn is great, but it's only as good as the relationships you build and the actual, connections you make through it. Yeah. So we're happy to help you through that. Just a couple little upcoming things. Our next workshop in the series is personal finance. That's next Tuesday at this time. I'll send out an email later today, and that's with another one of our Albers mentors. We are really fortunate to have such great wisdom in our mentors. And so that will be all around personal budgeting and credit and debt, debt and all of that useful information for a long time. So I hope you can join us. And then for you grad students on the workshop, on April 21st, we have a great networking event coming up, the Grad Career Connections event for you, where, hopefully you can make some great connections with people and then use some of these LinkedIn tips to get connected with them after the event and follow up and be able to do follow-up coffees and things like that. So some really good, exciting things going on this month. We're also doing mock interviews with employers. So check out our website for our events, the Albers Placement Center. And we're here to help and support you as much as possible. Rick, thank you so much for doing this for us every year. We're really grateful. And hope everybody has a great day.
Always my pleasure, Megan. Thanks a lot for having me.